Welcome to Coded Energy, where we take a holistic approach to health and well being, mind, body, and spirit. My name is Ollie, and I would like to invite you to join me and my wife Candace on a 365-day adventure through a book called The Tao of Jesus. Now, this book is structured to match the Celtic calendar, which, I am told, is more closely aligned with the natural rhythms and cycles of the year than the Gregorian calendar that we use today. According to the Celtic calendar, New Year's Eve is on October 31st, and November 1st is the new year. And so the Tao of Jesus, this book that we're going to be going through together, provides a reading for every day of the year. So we'll be going through 365 different readings over the course of this book. The book is a blending together of Gnostic, Christian, Taoist, Jewish, and aboriginal myths and traditions, and it's organized to mimic the natural year. Now, you may be wondering why it's called the Tao of Jesus. The Tao, after all, is a concept in Chinese philosophy, and Jesus, as you probably know, is the founder of Christianity, or at least he's the inspiration for Christianity. Although sometimes I wonder if Christians ever actually read what Jesus taught. But that's neither here nor there. Well, you may also remember that Jesus once said that he is the way and the life. And you may also know that Tao literally means way. So whenever we read the Tao Te Ching, which is the book of the way, and Lao Tzu talks about the Tao, you could conceivably in your mind replace that word with the way. Now, what is the Tao? Well, it's everything. And it's also no thing. It's a pretty tricky concept. We can talk a lot about it, we can describe it in many ways, but as we will soon see, words are mere approximations. All the things that we write about the Tao, all the things that we say about the Tao are merely fingers pointing at something, to borrow the Zen vernacular. It's a finger pointing at the moon. The key is that we don't confuse the finger for the moon, that we don't confuse the words that we speak and the words that we read about the Tao with the Tao itself. Words are not the things to which they point. Experience transcends language. And the power of words is not in words, but through words. In other words, see what I did there? Words are pointing to aspects of an experienced reality. And ultimately, that's what all of these texts and words are meant to do. They're meant to direct us to the experience of the way, the experience of the Tao. And so we have to be careful not to get lost in the words. We have to be careful not to become fixated in the words. Words indeed have power, but the power of words is not in the words themselves, but through the words. The words are a way to the experience. And so as we dive into this book and we explore these 365 readings, I would just like to remind you all to keep this in mind. Don't get confused by the words. Simply follow the words to the experience. That's my disclaimer for this, and I think what I'll do now is I'll read the introduction of the book, give you a sense of what it's all about, and then you can decide whether or not you would like to accompany us on this 365-day journey. And so without further ado, I give you the Tao of Jesus. Life is a journey from birth to death and beyond. As we move through life, our outer travels are paralleled by inner spiritual journeys. We human beings are traveling together on spaceship Earth, making our annual free trip around the sun. We are entering a new age that requires a new awareness and consciousness on our part, both individually and collectively. As we travel, will ancient wisdom be useful to us? In this book, travelers on inner and outer journeys will find creation-centered spirituality, a balancing of feminine and masculine energy, and the wisdom of the Tao Te Ching. Selections are arranged according to the natural year that begins with the eve of November 1st. Yes, Halloween is the beginning of the natural year. The themes in the Tao of Jesus proceed in a natural, logical way. Out of the Tao come creation stories that tell us who we are. Then comes a section on Huntun, the simultaneous coexistence of chaos and order. Out of Huntun comes the need for rebirth and new beginning, illustrated with the prototype for being fully human, contained in stories of Jesus' birth and baptism. Spring selections focus on what comes from rebirth, new ways of relating, and fresh, insightful teachings, particularly in the Gospel of Thomas. There follows the archetypal springtime theme of resurrection and empowerment with a new spirit. Summer readings are devoted to everyday living, the way of the Tao as it relates to ourself, our country, the mystery of life, whole earth consciousness, relationships, sexuality, finances, work, and leadership. Autumn includes attention to the inevitable conflict with the prevailing social order and ways of living with that conflict by belonging to a community of the Tao. Then follow readings on grieving, dying, and returning to the Tao. This completes the cycle and brings us to the beginning of another natural year. All begins and ends in the Tao. After the annual cycle of daily readings, this Book of Days provides a collection of co-creator chants and songs, followed by a Taoist Eucharist as a climax for celebrating what we are discovering. The soul of this anthology is contained in one sentence. The Tao becomes flesh and dwells among us. The purpose of this book is fulfilled as you experience the Tao who is within, around, and beyond us. The same spirit who inspired the original writers lives within you. You may find the ancient wisdom resonating in your mind and heart and soul. Your body may also begin moving in new ways. Sources for the Tao of Jesus. For the past 40 years, I have been searching for and collecting all the ancient documents I can find, giving special attention to the time before Jesus and the 300 years following him. This brings us to the time when Constantine took over the church and controls were put in place that began stifling free thought and expression of the spirit. In addition to the conventional biblical collections, we now have more ancient wisdom available to us than ever before because of recent discoveries of early documents and intense work by reliable scholars. The two most notable collections are the Dead Sea Scrolls discovered in 1947 in caves at Qumran on the northwest shore of the Dead Sea, and the Nag Hammadi Library, discovered in 1945 in a large jar buried at the foot of a cliff not far from the Big Bend of the Nile River in Egypt. One of these documents contains this remarkable statement. The great Seth wrote this book, placed it in the mountain, in order that, at the end of the times and eras, it may come forth. Besides these two collections of holy writings, there are others of great value. I include stories from ancient oral traditions, some of which have only recently been put into written form. Among these are myths from Africa, the Haida Indians of British Columbia, and Aboriginal people of Australia. As a boy in Arizona, I enjoyed going on field trips with our local rock club, looking for interesting gems, crystals, and unusual natural formations. Drawing on my rockhound instincts, I have been going through this ancient material page by page, looking for the gems, the useful Holy Scriptures, for us as we seek to live creatively in the time given to us. I am gathering gems of wisdom and arranging them in a natural setting for others to see. Usually, these gems stand on their own. Once in a while, I provide background, comments, or questions. The treasures I found appear to me to be holy ones, worth carrying in our mind and heart while on our journey. There are others that I have no doubt missed or overlooked, or been too blind to see. After you have worked meditatively with the gems I offer here, you may wish to do some field work of your own, studying the various collections of ancient wisdom now available in the English language. Well, my friends, that's the introduction to the Tao of Jesus. And so, if you found this interesting, if you think that the content of this book is right up your proverbial alley, then I invite you to join us on this magical, mystical adventure through Gnostic Christianity, Taoism, and many other traditions. Let's explore this wisdom together. Let's explore these myths together, and let's discuss them as we go. Whether you're a member of the Center of Love or simply somebody who is following coded energy, I invite you to comment on any and all of the passages that we will be sharing over the next 365 days. You can tell us how you interpret some of these passages or what they brought forth for you emotionally, intellectually, or what have you. You can ask questions. You can say anything you'd like. My hope in sharing this book with you and in sharing these readings is to stimulate new thought, open hearts, and generate interesting, engaging, and insightful conversation. So, there you have it. I invite you to join us, and I hope you will. And stay tuned for the very first entry, New Year's Eve, October 31st.